Welcome back to the most professional StarCraft 2 with the reigning world champion. In the red, the Terran from Team Liquid. It's Clem. Facing off against the best player from the United States of America. In the blue, the Protoss, the Battle Mage, Astrea. In a best-of-3 Terran versus Protoss showdown. And whether you like Clem's perfect aggression and execution, or Astrea's more calculated late-game plans, it'd be awesome if you could help me calculate at least one more like. And maybe even subscribe. Help me counter the algorithm. And Jimmy, what are we at? No cringing. 1,664 likes on this video, on this cast. And I'll cast another one. And I'll probably do it anyway, because I don't know what else I'd do with my life. But thank you for watching. Hopefully you've had a good day so far. And hopefully it's about to get just a little bit better. Clem scouring for potential proxies. Interesting to start things off as he goes with the double gas style. Not going to let us stray off the hook and allow him to just move along with his Protoss business. Usually the business which is making Terran's lives less comfortable. But it is interesting going for the double Reaper and Hellion. So looking to slip in, ideally, one after murdering, aggressively defending themselves against the Adept. And then getting some counter damage done while keeping Astrea busy. But the Adept already shading forward. It's already committed. A single Reaper comes back. He might be able to delay the command, so actually recalls the Adept before everything can come back. You know what? Astrea? He gets away with it. Where did... Huh. Perfectly done. Almost loses no hull damage. I guess hull damage is kind of a weird way to put it on an Adept, but no HP. The shield's still intact, and now 2 Reapers and a Hellion. If he had killed the Adept, these are an existential threat. Without killing the Adept, they're annoying. But certainly not nearly as deadly. Gonna lose the Adept eventually. The Stalker almost able to pick off the second Reaper, and the Hellion driven back as well. Astrea with about as perfect a defense as you could hope for. And in fact... Oh, you can see you! The Stalker's a specialist at that. Clem thought he was on the high ground, but just a few pixels too close. SCV headed out. Maybe lost track of the rally point or just wanted a quick vacation, and who doesn't nowadays? Medevac drop is spotted. Astrea on top of it. Well, technically below it, but the idea still stands. Hellion trying to find some more damage. Almost makes it into the main, but the Stalker catches it. Trips up on the ramp. And now, Widowmine dropping the main. Immediately pulls the probes. Oh, no. Sacrifice is offered and accepted. Clem will get a Stalker, a probe. Astrea almost dealing with that perfectly, but the shield battery itself blocked the probes from getting the surface area to kill the Widowmine in time. But overall, Astrea mitigating all this early game pressure. Doesn't get a huge amount of damage. Like, he didn't pick off the medevac. He only got one of the Widow Mines. But minimizing the amount of mining time lost, the amount of probes lost, and just the general amount of tomfoolery that Clem is able to execute in the early game, well, that's something that allows you to get a Templar Archives before the 5-minute mark. Is Blink done? Indeed it is. Blinks out of the way, finishes it off. Doesn't quite get the medevac, but a Templar Archives already on the way. That is obscenely quick. All right. These storms are blowing in incredibly fast. I guess there's a chance. No, it's not for Archons. You don't go Archon Stalker. You don't have the gas for it. But Astrea, the Battle Mage, reaching for the strongest spell in the game, arguably. That is about as early as you possibly can. Wow. I have never seen, especially in a game like this, where the Protoss has had to defend, like, that is going to be a 6-minute, maybe a little bit over 6-minute storm. Chrono boosting it. He's got it nice and tucked in at the natural. A little vulnerable to drops, but none of his tech is sitting in a vulnerable location where a single medevac drop is likely to get it. That is one of my many dozens, if not hundreds, of pet peeves. Maybe I'll, if I'm desperate for content, make a list at some point, but instead I'll just dramatically allude to them. But Protoss players and their architectural choices, that's like a whole subcategory. That's a whole TEDx talk right there. But more specifically, their choices to put their tech buildings in places where it's almost certain, not even just likely, but almost certain, if there's a medevac drop, it's going to hit them. Like losing a forge or two, losing robotics facilities, losing a Templar archives. It's not going to happen here because Astrea planned for it. And unfortunately, it's kind of going to get in the way of dealing with the Liberator. But Astrea tucking all his tech in. So if he loses all the storms, apocalyptic, just rips apart the Marine. You think you're going to keep going forward, Clem? He thought about it for a moment. But if he kept going, he wouldn't be thinking at all. The storms completely blindsiding Clem, wiping out 8 Marines. It looked more dramatic than it was, but 8 Marines was a significant part of the army. Clem still maintains a supply lead. This Liberator is absolutely infuriating. Finding every... So the way Astrea set up his base is great against everything but Liberators. But then again, Terran pretty much exists to circumvent the norms and make things as difficult as possible. Speaking of, another Liberation Zone. The Templar count has already grown to dramatic proportions. 5 Templar right now. I think that's more than they have Assassin's Creed games. And oh, tries to blink in, but he comes back around. The probe's done again. It keeps happening. This single Liberator has single-barreledly... single-barreledly... Jimmy... Yeah, we're editing again. I don't... done enough damage to keep Astrea at bay. Without that Liberator anchoring units back and keeping his attention busy, there's a chance that he would be able to break through and maybe delay the 3rd base. But Clem, looking for the 4th, but Astrea's taking the other side. The less common, less anticipated 4th base. So far, I have to say, Astrea getting the better end of Clem, but at least map control-wise. Definitely not enough to break through this siege line. Multiple Widowmons, multiple siege tanks, plenty of medevacs overhead, and now ghosts in the production tab. Are those Templar? There's a storm drop loaded up, but with a turret in place. Certainly not going to be ideal. Force field locks in some Marauders. Not sure who that helps more, though. Funnels the Zealots into the siege tanks, but Astrea is not tied to this. He knows. He knows. The map is dark and full of Terran, so he's lighting it up with observers. He has near perfect vision and using the White Raw announcer as well. I gotta appreciate every part of that. He makes his expands and then he defenses them. With this amount of... At this point, he's gone through almost map hacks with extra steps. He's got vision of any step or flight that Clem takes out of his base. And, well, that doesn't mean he's in a winning position. Clem is up 25 supply. And also, important, he's Clem. But he's giving himself all of the options necessary to put yourself at a potential advantage. The constant vision, the multiple flavors of splash damage, the continued upgrades. In fact, he's cut off that probe count right around 78, which is on the higher side, and he's adding more. I say that like it's a bad thing, because if you don't have the critical mass of army supply as Protoss, you just get run down by the immeasurably, well, measurably, but ridiculously cost-efficient. Oh, the storms, feedback, and so... What? Oh, that was optimistic. Oh. Thought he could get away with it too, but he doesn't have prism speed. Their Templar just kind of chilling all throughout on the high ground, staring down dramatically. Observers everywhere. Clem will be spotted on his march across the map. This is an old school style, but it still checks out. Templar archives. Feedback on 2 ghosts. More storms from the north side as Clem wades through it. The army already battered by the storms from multiple fronts, and back at home, the charge lots already cutting through the defenses. Some of the Marauders caught while they're reinforcing. This base isn't critical to defend, but Astrea certainly would love to do so. EMP's coming through, blinks over to the side, trying to knock down the Colossus, still helping out. Charge lots again. Guardian Shield helped out for a long while. Another warping on a pylon that a strong gust of wind would blow away itself, but the wind is targeted on Clem, and Astrea is going to hold. Wow. The ghosts, well, you can never count Clem's army out. But Astrea turns a 15-20 supply deficit into something almost dead even. And the tie goes to the leader. Astrea has 5 bases. He's got 81 probes. He's already got 2-1 upgrades, though Clem is working on his 2-2 right now. So Clem not suffering a lot of damage back at home, but between the storms and the Colossi, and just the general Templar usage, as well as some counter damage, Clem is beaten back, but not beaten down. +2 infantry weapons about to complete. Astrea smoothly shifting into the Colossi to take advantage. Well, there's only 2 medevacs. 3 in total. Not sure what the third one is, but there it is. Not enough medevacs to reliably heal up even the stims right now, as you see them slowly working their way through the process. Unfortunately, Astrea has an observer right over him, watching him go through the arduous process of actually pulling everything back together. And so far, so good, Astrea. Oh, the factory! The scouting factory. It's been a while since we see one of these. Clearly indicating that Clem is focused on the lower and higher end of the tech. Blinks out of EMP, because EMP is technically a projectile, but it's so obscenely fast, rarely can you actually tell that's a fact. But it's very, very technically plausible to blink out. Almost any other unit, if it's not at the edge, is not going to be getting out. Alright. Astrea in pole position in game number 1. Clem melted by the Colossi. The thermal lance is fully extended alongside mine, and now Clem trying to chase it down. The Colossi getting a bit bottled up. There are some Templar underneath, full energy, so it's a little harder to tell they're down there. But 5 Colossi kind of jiggling their way forward. Technical term. There's not that many Vikings. 5 Vikings for 5 Colossi is clearly not a strong enough answer. Clem EMPing the observer, adding a few more command centers. Ground weapons level 3, about to complete for Astrea. We got 3 infantry weapons and armor, plus 3 infantry weapons about to complete for Clem. War Prism to the north, more command centers. Starports, Vikings, SCVs on the wrong side of the cliff, and the Colossi will take full advantage. You gotta be careful. He has an observer. How many observers? The eyes of Astrea. 3 observers out there. Observer speed about to complete as well. Storms, a great historical and physical counter to Vikings, but it's time. Fusion Core is on the way, as Clem looking for that late game tech. I doubt battle cruisers will be the option, but Advanced Ballistics, Liberators, Caduceus Reactor, both incredible. The Warp Prism acted as a spotter. Did Astrea actually notice? Those medevacs flew right by the... He's got an entire vanguard of cannons arcing out around. There are 12 cannons on the map and more in production. But a storm... Feedback, energy recharge, and Astrea with another Templar, and more storms. But wait, there's more! Wherever you go, you can't hide from Astrea. He sees everything with the observers, with the constant... Wow, the drop 4 medevacs, usually an existential threat to a Protoss base, is instead routed by a few well-placed Templar in their fancy capes. Clem struggling to find any progress against Astrea, who's just kind of casually taken the entire map like he's a Zerg player. Wow. That Viking count, though, has gotten a lot more dramatic. 14 Vikings. Astrea smoothly shifted into more Templar. As at some point... Oh, and a fleet beacon is on the way. Wait, there's more Templar! A fleet beacon and 3 more Stargates. Stargate command coming together. Actually building it at the 3rd base. Not a terrible idea in case a drop comes in and guts the main. But Astrea has 6,500 minerals, 2k gas in the bank. He now has 17 cannons and counting. Another base on the way. Gotta be a little... The cannon is stopping the Colossi from being able to move how they want to. Clem does have 5 bases. But you can't shake the feeling that it's Clem who's playing defense. Arguably the best player in the world, especially the best at outright attacking, has been completely shut down by Astrea's calculated defense. How many gates? 18 gates. 4 of the star variety. Oh my. Well, that's probably why there's no Stargate. There's almost no real estate left in the main, as it's finally mining out. But Astrea moved his probes. He's got 92 probes. 7 more command centers for Clem. Some of the mining is blocked by cyber cores. A second Ghost Academy. Are we going to see nukes? That's almost always... Well, that's really the only reason for multiple Ghost Academies. Energy recharges. Astrea going to be taking both the 6 o'clock-ish, well, the south and north contested bases. And if he gets both of those, he definitely can play that more of a Zerg style. But so far, he's actually been more cost-effective. He's lost less resources than Clem. And that seems to continue as the Colossi just lancing their way through everything at the front. Tempest on the way. Astrea suffering from success. He's maxed out. 5 more orbital commands from Clem, bringing him into 11, which it's going to have scans for the entire map, and then some 2 nuclear missiles and a 3rd Ghost Academy in production. Two more Ghost Academies. Mass Nuke versus the Golden Armada. The absolute bleeding edge. The highest of tech. The Zealots being sliced out of the composition by Colossi. The Terrans with their nuclear missiles. The Protoss with the Golden Armada. The mothership is on the way. The Zealots gladly giving their lives, so that way Astrea could still have 92 probes and build a mother. No, that's not happening! The Observer on everything! The drop is slapped out of the sky before it can barely get out of Clem's base. Oh my! Wow! Astrea just completely shutting that down, and Clem is bottled up in his base. What an odd... That is crazy. Just keeping those Templars scattered throughout, but a nuclear missile! That's one way to break that. You know, it's not just for funsies. The nuke, probably the most efficient way to break this mass defense. And it'll blast through almost every single one. Another one of the cannons. The nukes are continuing to launch. 4 nukes at a time. Clem has decided to bathe the map in nuclear fire. The Marauders chunking their way through. The Nexus will go down, softened up by the nuke. Some Zealots made it into the main via the War Prism. Though, at this point, going for the production is of questionable... I mean, obviously, if you kill the production, that's helpful. But it's a question of supply now. Do you commit enough supply to actually do some counter damage? Or do you focus more on having that right on? Astrea is taking... Oh, my. Every single base on the map is taken. Astrea with about 2/3 of them. Though Clem has enough command centers, I think, for every single base as well. So that's where we are now. I swear Astrea's not a Zerg player, though he might be surprised to learn that. The Liberators, bathed in storm. Ah, the forward! The great wall of cannons! He's gonna build the wall, and he's gonna make the Terrans pay for it. And the Terrans are very happy to invest in more nuclear missiles, but, you know, it still costs him. 100 for each nuke. Astrea has 12k, 6k in the bank. Clem just now getting... He so rarely finds himself in the supreme late-game scenario that I think he forgot about those late-game engineering bay upgrades until now. High-sec auto-tracking, building armor. He's going to take out this Nexus, the mothership, holding it together. Does he just blast through this, or are we going to launch a nuke? More storms to the north. Another set, the Ghost waiting through them. And some more Templar coming up. He gives up and he launches the nuke. Astrea's kept him so busy. Clem reaches for the nuclear option instead. Oh, the Zealots. A bit late. It's going to land, even if the Ghost dies. Yeah, we get it. Time warp on one... Oh, that was a whole nothing burger right there. Another volley. Astrea just cancels it. The nukes as an answer to the mass cannons. The Zealots getting out of the way. Another Ghost taking out the Tempest. The Viking count, a whole Scandinavia of Vikings up there. 22 of them. Sir, you're parked in my spot. As Clem looking to take some... He's starting to run low on income. Astrea still has a great amount of mining. Because he's expanded almost everywhere. There are Ghost Academies across the entire map. Awkwardly, not the quickest way to take out a Ghost, but the nuke flies off into the sunset to create a new one. The Templar. Big storms. Another nuke. Terrible, terrible damage across the board, but the Ghost, well out of range. And a couple more cannons will get taken down. I'll say the radius of those nukes is not nearly as dramatic as it might seem. But another reason why Astrea's foresight to keep the cannons kind of well spread out was a good one. Tectonic destabilizers ripping through the planetary fortress in seconds. Astrea has added in 9 Tempests. He's got a mothership, 11 Templar. Only 14 gateway units in total. A solar flare of scads. I don't know if it was intentional or not, but 30 cannons with 11 more on the way. Clem has 13 orbital commands. But... And at this point, what is the win condition? Well, the win condition is destroying all your opponent's buildings. Astrea has 15,000 minerals in the bank. No matter how many enclaves of cannons Clem is able to take down, no matter how many nukes he launches, there's a chance that he runs out of money. But the Vikings, well, this is quite an exchange. The Vikings actually taking out everything. The Storm's taking out many of the Vikings in turn. Clem losing a lot of supply, but air superiority has tilted towards Clem, it seems. The Vikings able to just kind of wander in and take out... I'm surprised he committed to the fight, but it seems to have worked out. The problem is that Astrea has 18 gateways. He has 4 Stargates, multiple robos. He used the Select All Army hotkey in the most obvious demonstration I've seen in a long time, as 6 observers decide it's time for the yearly convention. I'm gonna see... Astrea! That's... Well... It's not private property if you can't keep a hold of it. Astrea with 9 Nexi going on 11. The orbital, a Nexus being built underneath. There are no more nukes in the tank as Clem starting to run out of resources. In general, he's at 150 supply. Astrea's not maxed out, but he's warping in 10 Dark Templar. He's building 4 carriers. He's got another ship on the way. The Battle Mage has held the line. The Templar do not have blink, so this is actually going to be quite painful. He may hold. Well, the SCVs are pulled. The DTs slice through the planetary like a dull knife through butter. The orbitals, yep, those are DTs. A classic tactic. But Astrea rebuilding the ultimate Protoss composition. Clem rebuilding whatever he can get. Astrea has... I don't even know, like, how many of these games has he played? He is the Battle Mage. Alright, this is how Astrea has always played. Sometimes too fancy for his own good. But He is no donkey Protoss like some others you might name, Arrow. But instead, the ultimate Protoss army crumbling under the might of a few dozen dudes with drugs, guns, and a hatred of illegal aliens they don't understand. But feel right at home. 3 carriers. Astrea still nearly maxed out. Clem dragging whatever minerals and gas he can out of the map. Constantly trying to mine. And he's going to get the base to the north, but Astrea has already mined the majority of it. What a game. I came in expecting maybe a dramatic exchange. Astrea? We're rich! We're rich! We're rich! We're rich! Well, technically, mules actually oversaturate, because you can only have 1 mule on a pet. We're rich! If you don't get that reference, it doesn't matter, alright? We don't like you anyway. For Carl. The mass mules will at least start to even out the canyon that has opened up between Clem and Astrea's incomes. But they're actually, I think, maxed out on the amount they could get on one base. Yeah. And Astrea is still comfortably mining from the overwhelming majority of the map. A Time Warp, active cloaking, Templar coming in from every angle of every flavor, but the EMP is knocking down a whole lot of the interceptors. The Vikings trying to brawl it out. So far, mostly succeeding. The charge lots underneath. Here comes another storm. The mothership still with active cloaking. Have to keep scanning throughout the entire fight, and Astrea wins it. It was a brawl. The storms kept raining down, eventually doing enough damage to overwhelm the medevacs. More Templar kind of gliding in. There's pylons dotting the field, a remnant of the cannons that once were. But through all the fire and fury, Astrea with a 100 supply lead, and Clem is still in the game with the SCV count he started with. Astrea has more SCVs than Clem. I mean, Astrea has more probes than Clem has supply, which does not bode well for the World Champion Terran. Astrea has put on an absolute masterclass of late-game Protoss from the very start, rushing towards the psionic storms. And now, it feels like a bit of a death animation situation. The nukes were an inspired choice, but Clem, nukes are good if you're relatively equal on economy. But, somewhat lore accurately, nukes are difficult to maintain when you're struggling economically. More zealots to the north, Clem. Trying to find mineral patches, whereas Astrea has over 9,000 minerals in the bank. A 4... Is that a misclick? We're back to the gateway units versus the bio. Clem with a more army supply, actually. Mass recall of a gateway army. Still 14 Vikings. 49 have been lost. Trying to target the orbital, but it's actually quite tanky. There's a couple mules repairing it. This did not go well. A few long-distance mining probes. The mothership retreated. But Astrea actually gets beaten back here. There's a casual... I still don't know what the Forge is doing out there. Had to be a misclick of some kind. Time Warp. Catches some of the bio. Scan. Snipes up. So... is Clem dead? Yes, but also... well... he has mules. If he comes back from this is the most dramatic demonstration of the power of mules, possibly in the history of the game. As Astrea has still over 9,000... well, he's building disruptors now. Has he built every Protoss? He hasn't built Void Rays, and he hasn't built Phoenixes. I don't actually... Now, you know what's crazy? I don't think he's merged a single Archon either. I haven't seen any Archons gliding around. These Templar either regen energy to storm, or they die trying. Same with the Dark Templar. They either attack or die trying. Is that... He's lost one Archon. I choose to believe that was a misclick. Especially considering he's lost 35 Templar, High Templar, and 13 Dark Templar. And now Astrea claiming the map, creeping the cannon creep. Much more like the Creeper World game. That's actually quite a fun series. And Clem refuses to tap out. But the chances of dragging this back are increasingly small fractions of next to nothing. The disruptors, he might think that Astrea was less cost effective because many of the times against Clem in the late game, the Protoss actually loses significantly more resource. Not this time. Astrea has lost 2,000 less resources. And I'm not talking like it's close, like the Protoss loses 20 to 30% more just trying to fight Clem's ridiculously effective army. But Astrea technologically circumvented him from the start. From the Storms, into the Colossi, into the Tempest, and then the Carriers. You're now back into the Tempest. The cannons at the front. The bulwarks. Astrea has dismantled the... Really? Astrea with Nexus number 11. For reference, most maps, the most bases most maps have, 18. I think occasionally we've had 20 base maps. So when you're at double-digit Nexi, things have gone poorly for your opponent. Does he not have any more scans? You have 8 orbital commands. I think he just dropped a... He's dropping every mule, constantly scanning the army. Astrea, you know, I don't even blame... Like, he doesn't need to kill him. Come to me. All right? Come to my side of the map, which just happens to be about 3/4 of it. Astrea's back up to 12k in the bank. 7,200. But the American Protoss has successfully strangled Clem. And is... Clem. There's a single DT in the Oh, this well... Clem! Clement. Clem!
Base is under attack.
See, AFK. Clem just get... This feels like the closest thing to being AFK mid-match that Clem has ever... What? Let's go to the Clem cam. He's just watching. What? How does he even have APM game? This is Clem's camera. Wow. How does he have APM? Explain.
Base
Is he select?
Base is under attack.
So Clem is forcing us to... Wow. This is some... Astrea is just expanding. Whoa, Clem. GG. There was a distinct 2 minutes or so there where Clem just stopped playing the game. He didn't leave the game. He stopped playing it. Which... He did not float his buildings to the corner, but that is about as close as you could get to it. This is what the minimap looked like at the very end. Astrea with the most comprehensive physical and emotional beatdown of the World Champion I have seen any player. I've seen Clem rage quit against Hero. Okay? And that's what it is. A little salty, get caught off guard. But this is like... recontemplate your career and life sort of game after 30-something minutes, where about 5 minutes ago it was pretty clear where it was going. Most of the game, Astrea was ahead. Streets ahead, you might even say. But about 5 minutes ago, it became almost certain, like within that 1% chance, that Clem could not win anymore. Assuming Astrea maintained his internet connection. So, wow. Huh. Now we gotta play more. Game 2. And he GG'd. You know, is it preferable for... I've always thought that when players make you kill all their buildings, that is not the flex they might think it is. Like it's Terran players, let's be honest. The Terrans who float their buildings to the corner or try to put down another refinery or something. That's a victory lap. Astrea just calmly collected, took his victory lap. He took every single base. I think he even put a Nexus in the natural, which was mined out 5 minutes ago from Clem. Like, that's the closest we get to gloating out of Astrea. But, wow. And it didn't even look close. Like, there were a few moments where Clem kind of maybe strikes back, but from start to the early pressure to the mid-game to the late game to the finish, Astrea had Clem's number. And Clem, being the age he is, might not understand what a phone call is, so he was calling it. Clem had no response. The Vikings, maybe that was the time for the battlecruisers. Honestly, that is the one style of Protoss that Clem, and really any other Terran, but I mean, it's Clem, so, has not been able to crack. If the Protoss is able to get like 4+ bases and all of their late game tech, if they just don't. So Astrea never had all his Templar in one place. He never had all his infrastructure in one place. He never relied his entire economy on one base living. This sort of decentralized Protoss style that makes it impossible. There's no head to cut off for the Frenchman. Beautifully done. Infuriatingly done. Expertly done. But now, game 2. Stargate first from Astrea. Adept meet and greet with some Marines. No Reaper Hellion this time. It's going to be a Phoenix. Making up. It's going to be Phoenix Void Ray, just to make sure he gets every single Protoss unit in a single series. And if he does, I'm trying to think, did he build any Immortal? You know, that's kind of crazy. No, he built Immortals. He had an Immortal or two in the early game. I don't think he did later on. But Astrea had Immortals last game. Just continually popping those depots. Does Clem have a hotkey for his depots? He does.
FCV ready.
Of course he does. Oof, so close yet so far. The Hellion. Gotta be careful not to drive over any Legos on the way back. Right. Hey! At least heal me! Sorry, Billy. You didn't pay your premiums. Robo on the way. 2 more gases. The Phoenix. Oh god. The Phoenix mating dance. Always uncomfortable. It's a real process making more Phoenixes nowadays. Spylon doing its job. Tries to sacrifice a probe to the Widow Mine. Trying to wait. Does he pick up? He gets the Widow Mine, but Clem gonna target, and unfortunately the Phoenix will go down a split second before the shield battery finished, but he ends up cleaning it up, and again, Astrea just shuts down this early aggression completely. Cloak Banshee, trying to take advantage of the lack of detection built into the Stargate, especially if you don't go Oracle. But there's already a Robo and a Robo Bay on the way. Astrea going for Mech Protoss here. Does he have an observer? Yes. Is the observer on this side of the map? No. He has to cancel. Well, another observer's on the way, but a lot of probes are going to be lost. 4 probes so far. 3 SCVs from the Phoenixes, but this Banshee has more than paid for itself now. Really just flexing on the probes. It will eventually die, more than likely. The observer. Astrea trying to box it in, but 12 probes dead to 1 Banshee. The second Banshee, thankfully, for Astrea did not go straight for the mineral line. I think he moved it across, but that's a lot of damage. Clem with the somewhat counterintuitive Banshee choice. Up against someone who's already got Stargate units, it seems like a risky maneuver. And it is. Especially uncloaking just because you think you're safe. Don't uncloak until you get inside the base. And even then, not necessarily a great idea. Manages to pick off the second Banshee, so a bit of a consolation prize there for Astrea. The Phoenixes will pick up a couple more Marines, so starting to rack it up a bit more. And the Phoenixes can help cut off any of the medevacs coming across the map. The observer spotted, knocked out of the sky. And now the medevacs slurp up the Marines. Gonna head towards the main base. But again, Astrea with his well-timed Phoenixes. The Battle Mage indeed. So good. And moving to intercept. He knows this is a threat. He spots the medevacs. Clem is forced to drop out. He's got the triple threat finishing up Stim Combat Shield and +1. There's already a Twilight Council on the way, straight up to 60 probes. Clem, does he have a third command center's 2/3 of the way done, but Astrea has again kind of taken technological superiority. A second starport is already on the way for Clem, prioritizing it. Viking's a great answer to everything Astrea's doing right now, so not surprised he's going to lean on him. Colossi, no extended thermal lance, but against just Marines with Phoenixes overhead. There's no easy answer. The Viking count is growing, but for a while Astrea will have... You can't fight 3 Colossi. It ain't gonna happen. Especially now with the Phoenixes to pick up anything that might be like the Marauders and the Cyclone. Or just take out the medevacs, really. Double reactored starport Viking. Really pumping them out. Widowmine. I think it may have taken out a probe. Gets picked up by the Phoenixes. Astrea gonna try to take a 4th base, but Clem loses the Cyclone. Gonna eat some damage on the medevacs. In fact, forced into a retreat. Astrea on the chase. Doesn't want to get his Phoenixes picked off. Templar Archives on the way behind. Second Forge as well. Astrea again. The Vikings. More than enough to match both of this. And if he can... The Stalkers don't have blinks. They can't easily reposition. He's going to be forced back. Widowmine Knocked into the Phoenixes. Now gonna try to get away. The Phoenixes will chase it down and take it out. But they might get picked off by the Vikings on the edge. 10 Vikings. Just 3 Phoenixes. No Blink, no Storm, which means I think no 4th base for Astrea. He agrees. Just cancels it without even trying to fight. Knowing that Clem has the army to deal with this, he has respected the air-based strength of both the Colossi, somewhat annoyingly, and the Phoenixes, and put out an overwhelming number of Vikings. So Astrea is already shifting into that bit closer to the ground style. The storms to rain down, the immortals to blast through. But Clem has a 20 supply lead, and this army is very dangerous. The Templar have been iconic from Astrea this series. We'll see if he can repeat that experience. Scanning for observers. But he stims all the way back to deal with these charge lots. Astrea just cutting through the 3rd and the natural, forcing Clem all the way back home to defend. And so far, 11 SCVs, and the more important victory, I think, is dragging the entire army back home. The economic damage is good, but the map control is even better. Wow. Astrea undercutting all of Clem's efforts. And now he's nearly maxed out himself. Another warping or 2. There are only 8 gates at the moment. +2, +1 on the ground, about complete for Astrea. +2 infantry, weapons, and armor. Halfway there for Clem. Who's now... Does he have a 4th command center? No. Yes. See, I keep him guessing. I don't know. He does. I didn't notice it moving. Templars scattered throughout. Their stoic vigils. Building up energy, meditating. Clem takes down... Oh, but the double feedback Q. Beautifully done. That was nice. I like that a lot. Doesn't kill him, but... Technically, there's no... you can instant cast multiple feedbacks. It's just... rarely that someone less experienced than a full-fledged battle mage is capable of doing so. Templar just hanging out. Even if they have no energy, they just gotta stand very still and hope the Terrans don't notice them. Their vision is based on movement and people whining about Terran balance. Astrea gliding forward, still has plenty of energy on those Templar. +2 done now for Clem. 3-2 for Astrea, already well along. And getting, does he already have Prism speed? I believe that's Observer speed. Wouldn't be surprised if Prism speed is queued up after it. 5 command centers, and here we go again. This storm's just excruciating. Oh my. Another set. Apocalyptic Category 5 storms. The Vikings, though, jumping the Colossi. Gonna knock them down. The Immortals chased as well. 1 storm. The Vikings! Whoa. The Templar everywhere. You can just assume there's a Templar out of the corner of your eye at all times. There are 10 Templar on the map. Just gonna click through them. Notice how often the screen is changing. So many players just keep all their Templar balled up and then whine about EMP. But right now, Astrea. That Templar spread. Can't believe it's not butter. The Ghost? Wait, it went slightly out of vision range. Trying to line up some shots. Doesn't have enough energy, but could just auto-attack down. He's stutter-stepping to... Wow. Wow, there's something about this. Meanwhile, though, the medevac's in an awkward position. A single Ghost. There's the Observer. Well, eventually gets cut down, but the Ghost just comes in and guns down 3-4 high Templar. That certainly cuts into things, but Astrea's already building that bank. Clem? He's seen it before, though. He's definitely handled this game better. Astrea has not been able to build that absolute almost one-sided bank that Clem can't hope to match. He still has more of a bank. But this time around, Clem is clearly more prepared to go to that extreme supreme late game. Even though Astrea, there it is. The fleet beacon is on the way. More Stargates as well. The army, another one getting chased down by the charge lots. Templar raining down with the storms, with Marauders wading through it, and the Medivacs barely caught. 3-4 Templar exhaust all their storms, and then their life itself. A fusion core on the way as well, as both players setting up for that late game tech, but Astrea suffering pretty severe losses out on the map. Clem taking equal or better trades, killing a lot of the Templar, down to 6 across the map, building 2 Colossi at a time. The Templar looking for feedbacks. Keeping control of the starport unit count is important, but there are 14 Medivacs right now. It's gonna be an effort. +3 ground armor. Astrea has +1 shields on the way, as well as +2 air weapons. He doesn't even have any air units. He's just been preparing to switch into that Sky Toss army. And a second Cyber Core is on the way in order to compound those advantages. But Clem has 5 bases and counting. He's got 6 orbital commands, 2 more command centers on the way. More storms, wades through. Shields level 1 complete. Astrea been playing a masterclass against possibly the hardest opponent in the game. Astrea has also beaten Cyril recently, so when Astrea looks good, he looks like the best Protoss in the world. But unfortunately, like many Protoss, consistency is key. And that's something he hasn't unlocked quite yet. But today, the storms, the Colossi, the tsunami of splash damage that washes away Terrans, Zergs, and sometimes Protoss alike. But Clem is... how many starports? 3 starports. Advanced ballistics about completed. EMPs, the stalkers jammed up, caught between a rock and a hard place. At this point, it might be worth it to take down the rocks if you want to try to fight in there. And Archon! They do exist. Ooh, that ghost is very dead. Building forward cannons. 3 Tempest on the way. Caduceus reactor. Tectonic destabilizers. Chrono boost the base. More feedbacks. Archon with overwhelming power, helping to rip through the army. And a War Prism in the main. Half a dozen charge lots, a few more. Just anything to keep her busy. The Templar distracted, throwing some water balloons at the sensor tower. Actually has so little HP, it might eventually kill it. Somehow gets away. More observers, but Astrea gonna move in. Blancs on top of the Liberators. EMP thrown out. Observers caught. Force fields to zone. Might be able to take out one of the orbital commands. More command centers on the way. Looks like the War Prism was taken down. Colossi stutter stepping back. Tempest, though, ready to siege from the top. Three Tempests at a time. Plus 3 ship weapons for Clem. How many Vikings? 10 Vikings, 4 Liberators, and a nuclear missile in production. Astrea. Again, though, the banks, not quite there. Mass cannons coming together, but immediately canceled. Dozens of cannons. Gonna lose hundreds of minerals just on the cancels, but would have lost more if the Marauders just ripped right through them. Another Templar trying to come up. feedback on a ghost. The Tempest count growing. 7 Tempests so far. More than enough to one-shot most units. Possibly too much to one-shot most units as they suffer from dramatic overkill. Cloaks 1 ghost. Oh, EMPs. Astrea losing ground to the left. And losing Templar to the right. More ghosts coming up, but the feedback's hitting him hard as well. Feels like Clem striking back so far. The Clempire strikes back as the Marines and Marauders able to take down the gold base. The Tempest shelling everything on the way out. The Colossi making sure the bio doesn't turn. Oh, what's happening to the north? A Warp Prism makes it into the main, but a Viking chases it down before it can warp anything in. Astrea doesn't have any supply open. Constantly warping in, chasing down more of the army. Clem is driven back. There's a planetary fortress, but he didn't get high-sec auto-tracking nor building armor. So the planetary should be easy enough to take down. And with Tempest, honestly, most things are easy enough to take down. Planetary is gone. All the mules who only began their short lives will now have an uneventful rest of them. No mothership this game. That's another thing. As we notice that recall to the south. Without the mothership providing an alternate recall option, it's a little harder for Astrea to move back and forth, but Clem still banking. Has not been limited too dramatically. Another storm over the top. 5 Templar, 8 ghosts. Astrea continually expanding. Clem continually scanning like it's a Costco checkout here. And making sure he's got everything. Tabs on everything. 13 orbital commands. 13 orbital commands and 1 nuclear missile. Gonna fire it over the top. Won't actually do that much. Take out a cannon. Half the shields, maybe? Yeah. And actually do some damage to the rocks, which may or may not help it. Whoa, what was... Just spamming the feedback. Gets 3 or 4 of the ghosts. Decides on it instead of storm. Might actually help more in the long run, we'll see. And more storms. The Vikings! Wiped out! And won't be invading England anytime soon, but... Those storms were excruciating. Plus 3 shields on the way, plus 2 air armor, as well as plus 3 air weapons for Astrea. Clem brings some of the Vikings back to repair. He's lost 23 throughout this game. Astrea starting to build the Iron Bank. Again, not quite. Another nuke! Three nukes being built at a time. So Clem decided this was the strat. This was the play. Of maybe going to adjust their usage. I mean, Terran doesn't really have any other options for breaking a siege easily. Nothing that can compete with the Tempests and such in the sky. You don't have Broodlords, you don't have the Tempests. Guess battle cruisers, but those come with weaknesses all their own. Some might say. But nukes do not cost supply. So, and you already have the ghosts. You already have plenty of ghosts. Scans across most of the map. Astrea just trying to lock things down. Where are the rest of these ghost academies? They're all over the place. 4 ghost academies. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa. The nuke. Does he see the dot?
Mineral field depleted.
Wait, I can't actually.
Enemy dropped nuclear into destroyed here at the spawn.
Okay, you definitely see that one. Another nuke. He just keeps launching him. Incinerates one of the ghosts, but another one over the top. Just gonna let it land. The Nexus starting to take some damage. Another nuke! Covering nuclear fire. Lines up the shot. He's in the trees behind it. Doesn't actually quite have vision. Astrea, that Templar, moves out of the way. Knows exactly the radius. Another pylon. Ooh. Observer gets completely obliterated. Another nuke. Clem carving his way through the nuclear siege. I didn't think we'd see it again this game, but Clem was like, no, I'll do it right this time. Building 3 nukes at a time. Another one over the top. This one may break out the rocks. Oh, he spots the dot, and he has vision. The nuke is not gonna make it. Flies off, creates the new sunset. Astrea lost a lot of ground, but still maintains a huge mineral bank. Clem isn't doing so terrible himself, and he's been able to carve out about half the map. Mass missile turret still doesn't have eyesight auto tracking and building on it, which is definitely an oversight at this stage. 13 more cannons on the way, and 13 cannons about to be canceled by Astrea. Astrea actually gonna let him finish. That's a lot of minerals down the drain there. Well, trying to at least buy some time. The Marauders will eventually be taken out. The shield battery survived the feedbacks with a vengeance, knocking some of the medevacs out of the sky, denying the rest. Another nuke! Oh my. And Astrea, he's noticed each of them, but the cannons taken down, more bruised, some of the probes caught. Slowly but surely, Clem is leveraging the nukes to carve his way through. The Vikings, 1 HP on that Tempest, with a single volley from the Vikings. A double drop heads north, repositioning. The bases are split. A much better opportunity here for Clem. There's going to be dozens of cannons on the map, but the nukes, I guess, relatively cheap in comparison. Another nuke. Up to the high ground, getting as close as he can. Does he have vision? How many observers? There are 4 observers, none of them close enough to stop this nuke from landing. Multi-pronged nuclear strikes. Another one. But this one, the ghost cloaks for the 4 seconds. Those few seconds may be what he needs. The observer moving forward, he might be able to take out the ghost, but he ate so much damage from the EMP. Clem's got to be careful not to nuke himself. The nuke lands in the midst of the fight. Storms as well on either side. The SCVs pulled off the line to repair the Vikings and Liberators. What a game. Clem has adapted. He's definitely making more progress, but Astrea still has that very difficult art. There's a mothership. The mothership has 0 kills. It's just been hanging out as an option for the mothership recall. Another nuke to the north. Oh my. And another one. He's firing off nukes with even greater speed, trying to launch each one before the one before it lands, making it harder and harder for Astrea to actually deal with it. Astrea has not been caught in any of the nukes. At this level, you obscenely rarely get that big nuke that wipes out the army. But he just simply can't get close enough to engage. Another one. This one. Does he have vision? The observer. And there's a hit! Oh my! I thought he had to have seen that one, but Astrea, I think, is getting exhausted. Like, there's so many nukes being fired off. He's starting to just crumble under the emotional weight. Half the map is being nuked at one time. 4 more nukes in production. He broke through the rocks. Astrea mined through the rest. The nukes are wearing him down. Though Astrea still has more in the bank. Each of these nukes is, go to the Clem cam for the next time he launches them so we can see how many he's fired. I think Astrea's more accurate. Astrea's still holding. He still has plenty of money in the bank. That's the thing. Like,
The simulator has run dry. Hard times have come.
Yeah, indeed.
No more guessing. Begin defense our base. Or right to the east.
Another base.
Nuke. Enemy tried to use special tactics.
I'm not sure how many. Call down detected. Nuclear strike. 30, 40. Maybe not quite that many yet. I'd say 25 at this point. Where is the nuke? Taken out. The ghost, rather. An oracle added into the composition to have some form of mobile detection. But Astrea has definitely been stalled out. Unable to make more progress, and Clem has mined. Well, he's mining half the map. This nuke takes, and another one. Takes 8 probes with it. And now the Nexus. 17 probes. Astrea. He rebuilds the Nexus optimistically, right in the midst of everything. The storms hit the Vikings. We can't take away from the fact that Astrea still arguably has more bank. But he's been unable to make any progress against Clem's bases. He's just playing constant defense, and the nukes are not free. But they're starting to get more and more damage done. Unleashes the Vikings diving on top of the Tempest. And Astrea's army is just crumbling. Viking Ghost up against Stalkers and Tempest with only a handful of storms. The medevacs are able to keep most of the Ghosts intact. There weren't enough Zealots. Well, Zealots aren't that great against the Ghosts in general. Trying to take down some of the medevacs overhead, but Astrea, his army is shattered. And he doesn't have the money to rebuild. Clem has adapted and overcome. The Mothership! I feel like the Mothership was heavily underutilized this game. What is that, time warp? Astrea crumbling. Game 1 was a masterclass, and here, the apprentice has become the master. Clem has learned his lesson. After a salty game indeed. And the nukes were the answer. The answer was more nukes, apparently. Much to my surprise and to Astrea's dismay, the answer was what every Twitch chat and less experienced YouTube commenter thinks, which is, why don't you just build a lot of nukes and just nuke their whole base? Well, apparently, that's a good question. More landing. The storms are incredible, but the nukes have ground Astrea down to dust. There's nothing in the bank. Clem moving forward. He's eating all these storms, but the medevacs are holding. I assume there's a nuke somewhere. Disruptor shot. A Desperation Ruptor fires off another shot. Astrea, he doesn't have the mining that he did. He doesn't have those extra bases. He has one and maybe... No, he has one base mining. And Clem has grabbed the base to the south. He actually has the lead, economically. The Mothership gliding forward. The Vikings putting big hits. Good time warp. The Orbital Command will be taken down. Disruptors to zone out. Astrea needs an incredible fight. The Vikings overhead. the bio army. It holds. Clem nukes his way right back into the series. And we're all tied up. After over an hour. 1-1. Wow. Astrea unable to leverage that. He just never got down any of the ramps. Or up them. The key to ley lines was having always at least one more base. That means even if you don't end up being more cost effective, you can continue fielding an army. But going even money with the Terran is a very difficult thing to do in most games. And it cost him. Wow. I keep, like, each of those games is a whole series in of itself. Clem overcoming the both. It felt like he had a real mental block in game 1. I mean, he just didn't know. He tried, and he came up with nothing. Maybe I was mischaracterizing how Clem was handling the end of game 1. I've seen Clem rage quit before. He's a salty Terran, self-admitted. Not, like, cripplingly so, like some, but maybe he was taking those couple minutes instead of just getting out of there. Because it's such a Clem thing to do, stereotypically, to leave the game immediately. Like, too early, arguably. Even though it almost certainly lost, like, leaving mid-fight. So it's very rare to see him leave when the fight has been over for a while. But I think that was him, at least generously, trying to figure out where it went wrong, because there were so many things to really contemplate. And what is amazing to me is not only did he figure it out, but it ended up being the nukes. Feels like the conclusion he came to was more nukes. All right? And it's some, like, just a few of them can be avoided. But a barrage? Now it's Astrea's problem to figure it out. And he didn't. He did not have an answer. You can shut down one ghost or two, but when they just keep coming and they don't stop coming, well, the destruction was not mutually assured. And we're all tied up on 1. Wow. There's a Reaper. This all feels so trivial now. Alright? After seeing the nuclear warfare and the fall map battles of the last couple games, trying to get excited for a Reaper getting chased by a Stalker requires like a adjustment of your worldview, which I'm not willing to do. So like and subscribe. And thank you to Wardi, as always, for putting on these incredible tournaments, small and large. But I'm not. They're all anything that creates good games for the fans, I'm excited for. So make sure to check out the link in the description after you like and subscribe. And thank you for watching. Blink, sentry on the way. Scouting sentry. Nellian, looking around. Robo, the most safe, generic sort of opener. I'm gonna be opting for the Widowmine drop flavor this time. One of the Widowmines triggered by the Scouting Phoenix, hallucinated Phoenix. So, Astrea spots the mine drop, obviously. Gonna move out the Stalkers to try to intercept. Blink is very quick, but Medevac slips through without even taking a single hit from the Stalker. Though it's scrambling up. Doesn't quite find the motivation in time. And 2 Stalkers warped in. Recalls back some more. Will it be enough to deal with the mines? Yes, he gets one. The second one will burrow down. Oh, okay. Oh, no. So close. He tried to mineral walk and get that extra surface area, but instead it cost him the probes. 6 probes dead. Not great. Not terrible. A medevac gets out, so not much of a consolation prize at all for Astrea. Definitely could have been better. Certainly could have been worse. Yeah. Clem saw the Stalkers conspicuously sitting down there. Don't do it. He's just going to use the high ground vision from the Phoenix, which Clem's not going to be able to deal with easily, but there's no reason he has to. He's like, no, no, just no. I'm not bothering with this. Marine drop headed out. Charge is on the way. The immediate follow-up going to be a much more standardized sort of blink into Colossi build.
I am uncertain.
More following it up. Spylon on the way. We'll do it. Deja vu. We've just been in this place before. Clem getting spotted. Taking it down. Definitely worth it to just take down the pylon and then try to speed by. They have blink stalkers. They're going to see it. Speaking of, Astrea actually gets a little supply blocked off that. Caught again. Whoa, who's flanking who? The medevac almost gets caught. Blinks over the top. Medevac's doing their jobs across the board. Third command center on the way. Clem has not found a significant amount of damage, but he's kept Astrea very busy across the map and will easily be able to take his third. Astrea actually has a 4th base on the way now. A little on the optimistic side, but with the Colossi, might be able to hold on to it. A scan. The Raven still at the back. 5 kills so far as it hovers over the Singularity. Marines knock out one of the Zealots. And Clem coming in from both sides. Gonna crush whatever gateway units the Widowmine's in position. Just stutter stepping through. The probes slaughtered. The Nexus vulnerable. He might just be able to take it out, but the amount of stutter step is a little gratuitous. 16 probes dead. Astrea economically gutted. Doesn't even bother. He might have been able to get the Nexus, but it likely would have cost him a critical mass of army supply. So Clem chooses to get the much more malleable probes and gets out. Astrea with no... I was gonna say Astrea feels like he's lost his spark. But he's also lost the series. As the Raven comes in, kills 8 more probes with the auto turrets, and Astrea's just done. He knows when he's beaten. Wow. Clem, after his violent meditations in Game 1, comes back with a vengeance. Rains down nuclear hellfire on the American Protoss, and then dismantles him with great prejudice in Game 3. The World Champion showing why he remains that, and is looking to prove it again. Astrea with another incredible set of games. Once again living up to the Battle Mage title. But not quite enough to break through Clem. Well, that was certainly something. Hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. Hopefully it made your day just a little bit better. And if you got the means and motivation, it'd be awesome to check out Patreon or YouTube membership. And thank you to our Mule tier patrons for bringing in the extra minerals. Big Jakey, Devin, Dora, Kate, Mario, Random Guy, and Suit. But I hear liking and subscribing is still free. At least for now. So, thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Good luck. Have fun. Stay chill.